how we're turning ideas into reality. And I want to take this opportunity to introduce Stephen Morris, the Managing General Partner of Indico Capital Partners, who's going to really be talking about how we go from local to global. How do you turn an idea, a little idea, into a big success story? Stephen, it's yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I will be sharing my screen very shortly, but just to say that, yes, my name is Stefan Moraes. I'm the partner in charge of the major fund in Portugal from a small country. And our companies have raised in excess of 550 million only in the last 2 years. On the back of an investment of 23 from ourselves. So it is possible to go from a small country into the world, and there's some ideas and lessons I wanted to share today. So I'm going to share my screen now and see if it works. There you go. So again, a pleasure to be here, and let's start. When you don't have a local market, which is our case in Portugal, this is actually a huge advantage. It's a huge advantage because it forces you to think globally from day one. It forces you to think of how to be unique, essentially, which is really what is going to differentiate you on a global scale. And for you to be that unicorn, you want to be a global category winner. And for that, you need to have an absolutely unique value proposition. We've seen 1,700 deals in the last 2 years at Indico in our office hours and when we meet companies. And 95% of the pitches are sort of eliminated on the first meeting because they lack that uniqueness. We talk a lot about teams, and we'll talk about that as well. But it's really that unique way of solving a problem that is addressed certainly by other competitors, even if they are old school competitors. It's the unique way that you are approaching that problem and solving it in a way that is 10 times better than anything else out there that will sort of make you stand out when you're pitching to a VC. So you first define the problem, and then you say, this is how I'm solving it, and this is why I am totally unique, and this is why I'm way, way better than anyone else out there. The second big question when we're listening to pitches is, okay, so you're solving a problem. It's a big problem for a few people, but is it a big problem for a lot of people? So size matters, and it matters because of the unit economics of the venture capital industry. We are normally very, very selective. And even despite the fact that we're very selective and choose only a few companies to invest out of, say, 1,700, we've invested in 17. So that's 1% of acceptance rate. Let's put it this way. We know we're going to get it wrong because, starting a company is hard. Being an entrepreneur is very, very hard. And so what we need is the few companies that actually succeed in our portfolio to become massive, hugely massive, so that we can compensate for the inherited losses that we're going to have in all the other ones. And given the fact that we're going to have only a small percentage of your company, we need that company to be huge so that our small percentage is still a big, big return for the fund and returns the whole fund. And that's why size matters in terms of a huge addressable market. So not only you have to come up with a solution that is way, way better than anything else out there in the world, or at least in the wider region, but that solution must be interesting so that many, many people or many, many companies pay for it and that your company becomes very, very big. So that's the second sort of big test when you're facing the VC. Last but not least, it's the team, right? Particularly when you are an early stage investor and there's not a lot of traction quite often, and the product is still kind of an MVP, a minimum viable product, and you have maybe a few pilots and you have maybe a few customers. What you want to really understand is who's facing you. Are these people, smart enough, hardworking enough? Do they have the right background? Is there diversity in the team in a sense that they will think of the problems and the difficulties through many different angles? And do they have the ambition, not only in terms of hard work, but do they really want to reach the top of the mountain, and not any mountain, but do they want to reach the top of the Everest? So it is really, really difficult to basically try to find such a team. And what you need to demonstrate as well is a willingness to listen, because VCs normally, particularly lead VCs, are normally quite interventive, are normally quite in tune with the company. And if they are good VCs, they will try to add value, and hopefully they will. And so they need to have a team to work with, not a team to lecture, but also not a team that doesn't listen. It needs to be a teamwork. And then the journey starts. And the journey is rocky. We all know that things don't go well all the time. We all know that, the world changes. You think that the product is going to solve one thing, and then it ends up solving the other. You think that, revenues will come quicker than they normally will. And you find new avenues of growth. So you need to be able to iterate. Iterate means sometimes changing your customer segment, changing your business model, quite often changing your strategy, changing your pricing, and for sure changing your team, or at least enriching your team with more senior people and more diverse backgrounds. So this idea of iteration is absolutely key when you're on a path that hopefully will be a successful one, but there will be setbacks. Even the unicorns that we have backed in the past have had and actually continue to have several setbacks. And actually, the real life starts when companies do their IPO, and then there's more setbacks and more iteration needed when you go into the public market. So it's a journey. And last but not least, speed. We always say to our entrepreneurs, perfection is sometimes a nice to have, but not a must have. What you really need is to execute fast, to iterate, to execute again, to try it out, but to do it all with a sense of urgency that sense of urgency that you see in Silicon Valley. That's what we need in our markets as well. That's what you need. You need to be ahead of the curve, not too ahead, by the way. You don't want to be too ahead of the market, but once you spot the opportunity, and particularly once you reach product market fit, you want to be fast in deploying, in gaining traction, and making sure that your product is at the top of the game, and that you are able to deliver momentum, because that's the momentum that will keep on helping you to raise capital, and it's that capital that will keep you at the top of the game and towards the top of the mountain. And for that, you need the right attitude, right? You need stamina for sure, but you need to be positive. I mean, imagine an entrepreneur that only sees the glass half empty. No way. You need to see the glass half full for sure. And you need to have a positive attitude, because there will be setbacks. There will be competitors that try to bring you down. You'll get turned down multiple times by customers and multiple times by VCs. And you have to keep on believing. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's never a couple of years. It's more towards a decade if things go fairly well. And so attitude, being positive, and leading with good energy, and leading your team and bringing amazing people into your team is absolutely key for you to win this race, which is a long-term race. So thank you very much. This is what I wanted to share in terms of our lessons for the last few years. And I hope you will have an amazing, successful career.
Thank you for that, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us today.